All right. I'm going to open up before we do the Lord's Prayer because I've asked Reverend Velma Bullington to do the Lord's Prayer again for us tonight. But before she does, I'm going to open up with the prayer that I open with. It's a statement as well as a prayer. In Aramaic, Al-Haile, the Maran Ishwa Mishicha, Misharenan Milap, Milte, the Mari Allaha Haya. All right, Reverend Velma.
Let us pray. Awun Dwashmea, Nis Kadeshishmach, Tekte Malkuthach, Nepwe Sewiana, Ekana Dwashmea, Up Bara, Helan Lachma, Sunkana Nyamana, Washwok Lon, Halbane, A Canada, and I'm Schwacken Lahayawain. Well, a Titlan Lenisiana, Ella Passan Minbisha, Mitol Dilagi, Malkuta, Hyla, Tishbo, Ta, La Alam, Amen, Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Well, tonight we're going to continue with the book of the Revelation, and we start with the 4th chapter. I do hope you have your Bibles with you so you could read along with it, or if you're going to be taking notes on the different things that I'm going to be telling tonight. There's one thing I got to tell you. Reading the book of the Revelation makes me sad. I don't like reading the book. First of all, because so many times when it is interpreted, it is not interpreted in the correct manner. Because you're going to read all kinds of things in this book, all kinds of imagery. It is Near Eastern imagery. The language that is used, the sense of judgment that is in the book, all of that is from the old-fashioned way of approach to God. This is not Jesus' style at all. This is why the book of the Revelation was rejected as making it part of the New Testament in the early centuries. It took the 4th century and a committee meeting to get that book in the New Testament, to get this book, the book of the Revelation, which sometimes we call it the Apocalypse. There's one other apocalypse in what we call the Old Testament, and that's the book of Daniel. The Jewish people do not acknowledge the book of Daniel, that is the scholars, as a prophet. They see it as an apocalyptic book, the same way that this book of Revelation is written apocalyptically, and in the sense of what it is doing. And I'm using Greek words now when I use apocalypse. In Aramaic, it's Giliana, revelation, the uncovering, the unveiling. And the reason I'm saying all this again tonight is because we're dealing now with the exact images. And you're going to see, let me tell you, the images you're going to hear and see, and we're reading to you and then breaking it down, you're going to have to imagine this is an Eastern portrayal, a Near Eastern portrayal of a great potentate and power in the Near East. Of course, it's all going to be ascribed to God. All the description, all this imagery is God as a ruler. And because people aren't following the way, then all these different things are going to happen. I'm going to break that all down for you. But the way people use this book to build fear, and it wasn't meant to do that. It was really written to encourage people in the beginning. But this is why it was rejected. It took the 4th century before it was accepted. And I told you about how they voted on it, and et cetera, and how it got into the New Testament. But we have to realize we cannot take anything literally. we have to understand what it means, the imagery, what the imagery meant in the Near Eastern times. I will also give you some of the metaphysical meanings to it, because when they began to interpret it, they used it two ways. They interpreted from the actual image itself of what might happen in the future if they did certain things, and then also what is taking place in consciousness. Remember, it starts with the vision you should have in your mind, and that's why I did it last week when I went over it again. The first chapter, where when John turns and he sees this image of a human being dressed in white, and we went to all those descriptions, that is the image, the Christ consciousness. That's what you got to hold. If you're going to interpret it metaphysically, you've got to interpret it in the Christ consciousness. But if you're going to just interpret it in the regular symbols and what it's saying, then I will tell you that too. But I want you to get both of them so you can benefit from it, okay? But I want you to know none of this is done by God. All right? It's not done by the Spirit of God. This is showing what happens when people do not follow the simple truth and teachings of Jesus. And they produce this other. Instead of producing goodness, they produce hell on earth. All this description in the book of Revelation is strictly hell on earth. And it's and you hear, when you hear the preachers, it's all they talk about too, you know, the mark of the beast, and angels opening up the pit and allowing this terrible being to come out of it, and then also allowing a beast to come out of the sea, and a beast on the land. So there's a water beast and a land beast, and all of the God doing all of this, releasing all of this, and in heaven there's a big fight between Michael, the archangel, and a dragon, and the dragon gets cast to the earth. None of that. That's all imagery, people. There was nothing happened in the heavens, nothing at all. This is imagery to tell you what we release here on the earth, because we refuse to come and allow the light of our Lord Jesus Christ to come forth. So we produce all this hell on earth that the book of the Revelation is talking about, not God. God doesn't send angels to blow horns and, you know, the trumpets, to blow the trumpets, to release these beasts, to all these things. You have to understand ancient Near Eastern people, how they thought. Since God is the cosmic ruler for everything that takes place on the earth and in the entire universe, therefore he's permitting all this, he's allowing it. And so he's, as a potentate, says, okay, I send a messenger, I want you to blow that trumpet so certain things will happen. I want you to get that vial and pour it out on the earth. I want you this. I'm just describing some of the things we're going to be reading in the book of the Revelation. God does not do any of that. You have to understand that. This is a vivid imagery description of what we release on earth when we do not understand what we are. Okay? If you keep that in mind, keep these things in mind that I'm telling you, because as we go along, I will remind you from time to time what it is. When the seals are broken and the 4 horsemen are released, you have to understand what that is, and I'll remind you of it each time. Okay. Now, I think with that gentle opening and introduction, we can start the 4th chapter and the book of the Revelation, and I'll break it. I'll try to go as slow as I can so you can get it down if you're writing it. All right, let's look at it together. I have in front of me here the scriptures. This is what I have in here. And let's start. After these things, I looked. Now, he's through with the 7 churches. After these things, I looked, and behold, a door was open in heaven. Now, the symbol of a door is always good. That means, usually, A door means an opportunity. We even use it ourselves. A new door opened to me, and a new way open to me. But the imagery of a door represents an opportunity, something that will happen. He says, but where was the door? The door was open in heaven. The very fact that it was in heaven, that the door was open, means a inside view, a revelation. And it was in the heavens, which means in the sky. He saw this door in the sky. You have to visualize. I'm trying to make you visualize it, because the more you can visualize, the more you can project this imagery in your own mind, it'll help you develop when you do meditation. When you do meditation, let me tell you, you have a door. Meditation is a door into heaven. Okay, you got that? This is aside from the verse here. Meditation is a door into heaven. It's a door into your higher consciousness in the sky. The sky is symbolic of the higher consciousness. So awareness, let me make it even simpler. The higher awareness of life. And this is a problem today. The problem is we've lost touch. I'm speaking in general terms now. We've lost touch with our souls. And by losing touch with our souls, we've shut the door of the heavens, the opportunity of the heavens, of the sky. We've lost it, because this is why we have so much trouble and fighting and all this going on and division. It's because we can't get along with one another, because we've lost the heart and soul of what real life is. We've sold out to materialism. We've sold out to all of that. So have the churches. Many churches have sold out to them. If this was written to all the different churches all over America and all the heads of the churches, are they under the power of the Spirit? Do they see that door open in heaven? Okay. So you got the meaning of that. An opportunity, a spiritual opportunity. Okay. And the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet, always like a trumpet, meaning this was an announcement. Someone is announcing something to me. That's why it's like a trumpet. Talking with me, like a trumpet, meaning announce, announce, announce. And what did it say? What were the words? Come up here, come up into the sky. That's what the invitation is. Come up into the sky. Come up here, and I will show you things which must come to pass, or which must happen. I will show you matters which must happen. Okay, in meditation, this is a form of meditation. In meditation, when you shut everything out, there's only one thing open to you in meditation, and that is the heavens. And come up higher is the invitation. And what does it say? And immediately I was in the Spirit. Okay, so how do you get in the Spirit? You have to empty yourself of the content of consciousness. That's how you get in the Spirit. Because I was in the Spirit. In other words, the Spirit descended on him, but he was open for it. He saw it. He wanted to come up higher. How was he going to come up higher? He didn't really go up higher. What happened is he was in the Spirit. The minute you're in the Spirit, you're in a higher state of awareness, a higher sensitivity. Everything becomes more alert, but in your mind, in your awareness, everything else is shutting down. You're calming the body. When you go into meditation, when you go into real prayer, everything is calming down. I have to watch myself. When I do this, it's easy for me to go right into sleep because I empty everything. And when I empty everything, I'm right on the edge of going right into sleep. And it only takes me a matter of a minute or two. Boom. And so this is why I have to pay attention to my breathing. If I pay attention to my breathing, to the breath, then I can stay alert. And I tell myself, stay alert, especially when I'm praying for others, because when I'm praying for others in that state of being, I have to visualize them. I see them. Imagery does not hurt as long as your body is calm, your emotions are calm, everything in you is. This is why it's good to get in a chair. I don't get in a lotus position. That's for the people in India. I don't get in a lotus position. I just either get in on the bed and lie flat, or get in a chair that puts me in a 45-degree angle. I relax. It helps me to relax. This is how you enter into a sense of higher awareness, sensitivity. And when I do my prayer work, especially others, when I know something they are needing, I have to see their face first, and I visualize their face. I see their face. I see what's going on. If I don't know the face, then I see their name in front of me, and I connect with the name. This is how I work with it, with the meditation. And I'm still using imagery. I'm empty though. I'm totally relaxed. I'm not doing other things or just strictly in that. And this is what's happened to John. And because of that, total empty, this imagery was coming to him, as you're going to see now. I was in the spirit. The first thing he sees, and this is Near Eastern. It's very natural for him to see this. This is Near Eastern. I looked or look. The word behold means look, behold, a throne. A throne was set. Now it means a whole throne, not just the seat, but a whole throne, because it's going to describe other things in a minute. It was the throne area, the place of authority, the place of dominion, the place of power. The power means authoritative power. And that's what it means, power and dominion. So a throne set. What we're going to see now, we're going to enter the temple. This is the temple of God. And the throne is set. In heaven, this is all taking place in the higher dimensions, in awareness. And one sat on the throne. And he who sat, now it's the chair, resembled a stone of jasper and the sardonyx stone. And round about the throne, the whole seat, around about the throne, was a rainbow resembling emeralds. So we have green and brown. There's the colors in here, the stones and the jasper and the sardonyx stone. And then the rainbow, which is several colors. The rainbow represents the God of the covenants, the covenantal God. Got it? Covenantal God. He makes a covenant. He made a covenant with Moses. He made a covenant with Israel. He made a covenant according to the scripture story. And it's following Jewish ideas. These are all Jewish ideas. And so he sees God on this throne. And the very fact stones and emerald, the jasper, the sardonyx stone, and all these colorful things, this was the ancient Near East. They always had all kinds of jewelry, and on the throne, near the throne, the king would be, the potentate would have all kinds of things on him too, with different colors. And if you remember in the Old Testament, when the high priest was ministering in the tabernacle and Moses set it up, he set it up with 12 stones. It was called the ephod. And there were 12 stones in the ephod of all these different stones of colors, different colors, sardonyx stone, beryl stone, I had all these different, which represented the 12 tribes. So he had to do that because he was representing God. So God had to have jewels and stones, these magnificent stones by him on the throne. This is what is being described. You have to remember, this is near Easter. So, and the rainbow represents, as I said, the covenant God. And round about the throne, now, aside from the seat, at the platform of the throne, there was something more. Round about the throne were 24 seats. And upon the seats, I saw 24 elders sitting clothed in white robes. White now represents purity, originality. Purity and originality. And so this is what's there at the throne. It's to be magnificent. This is supposed to be in the temple. And he's seeing this. And so why 24? 12 elders or leaders of tribes, 12 heads of the 12 tribes of Israel, and 12 apostles of Jesus. So it meant the new covenant and the old covenant and the new covenant. The old covenant represented the 12 heads of the tribes of Israel, and the new represented the 12 apostles, the 12 sent ones. This is the new covenant. And we're not talking about the New Testament, we're talking about the new covenant, which Jeremiah also talked about. He says, and they on their heads had crowns of gold, which means they were an extension of the throne. Crowns of gold meant royalty. Gold meant royalty and loyalty, but royalty, it was the extension of the power from the throne. All right, now I'm going to tell you something metaphysically. Right now, I was doing it more literally, but I'm going to tell you something metaphysically. What this represents when you go into meditation, all this imagery you're seeing here is what is established once your being gets established in the Christ, in the Mashiach, in the anointed. The first thing that's set up in your awareness, in the higher consciousness, not in the regular consciousness, not in the physical consciousness, but in the regular consciousness, this is not there. It's in the higher consciousness, which is a part of you. Authority is set. What kind of authority? A heavenly authority, a spiritual authority. This is the kingdom of God in expression. So, but it's used to all this imagery. And these 24 elders, heads of tribes, heads of the new covenant, the apostles. And a lot of these things are going to be repeated in different imagery as we go along in the book of the Revelation. This is why it's establishing this in the fourth, what we call the fourth chapter. It was never, he didn't say chapter 4 when he wrote this. He just is telling the visions as they happen to him, his sight that he's seeing. He said, and out of the throne proceeded lightning, thunderings, lightnings, thunderings, and noises. Okay, this represents now, lightning represents insights. Insights. Thunders represents voices. Voices. You got it? Lightning represents flashes of insight. Got it? And thunders represent the voice of, after the lightning comes the thunder. I'm talking about in the atmosphere, right? The lightning comes first, then the noise, and then the thunder and the noises. Bang, 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 all of that. The thunderings and noises. When they were on Mount Sinai, Moses was, and on the lower part were some of the elders, and the people saw all this. It represents omnipresence, God's presence. All this is power and noises and all this. This is typically Near Eastern. God doesn't have any of this. This is all done in Near Eastern imagery, okay? This is Near Eastern imagery. Now, we're not through with the throne. All this is getting established in your higher consciousness. And and there was 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne. Remember the 7 spirits of God? In other words, seven messengers all before the throne of God, which are the 7 spirits of God. Now, God doesn't have 7 spirits. 7 is the number of completeness. It means omnipresence, omni-light. This is omni-light. This is God's light, not the light that comes from a consciousness taken up with just pure materialism. It is not that kind. This is a pure, that's why it's 7, complete, total illumination, total. That's, God doesn't have 7 spirits. It only has 1 spirit. Okay. And before the throne was a sea of glass, which means the floor of the throne was like a sea of glass. You know, glass, you can see through glass. And that's why it's glass. Resembling crystal. Again, this is a form of energy in crystal, but it's a see-through. In other words, the entire platform, the floor, and everything around it was clear. It represents clarity. Well, with the illumination of God and the lightning and thundering and noises and the 7 flames, complete and total insight, what is this here? The floor is clean, totally clean, crystal clean. You can see all the way through the floor, which means clarity. You come into clarity. In this type of awareness, you come into clarity. And then it goes on to say, and in front of it, and in the midst of the throne, and round about it, and in front of it were, like the lambs, it translates it as animals. And then he has a footnote saying creatures or beasts, because let me tell you what the Aramaic word is. The Aramaic word there is Hiwatha. And if it's 4 of them, we'd say Hiwathe. But it's from the word Haya. Haya means living. Haya, living. Haye, same word, only I say Haye, that's life. Haya is living, life. So Haye, life. Haya, living. And this is Hiwatha. Some say Haywatha, but I say it Hiwatha because it's coming from the word Haya. The root of that word is living, life. It's life. So I would translate it rather than just animals, although it does mean that too. I would translate it as living creatures. Living creatures. That's Dr. Lambda does have the footnote creatures there, or beast. I wouldn't use the word beast because you'll confuse it with the beasts that are going to come up out of the sea and they're going to come on the land. I don't want you to mix them with those 2 beasts. Here, I prefer living creatures because it's from the word Haya. So Hiwatha or Hiwathe, because there were 4 of them, Hiwathe, sometimes they shorten, they go Hiwathe real quick. These creatures, living creatures, which means the reason why it's animal is because animals emanate some sort of a strength. And I'm going to tell you what these animals are and these living creatures. I like living creatures because they're emanating a tremendous strength and energies emanating from these 4 living creatures. Okay. Your Near Eastern potentates always had animals on the throne. And near them, near the throne, some of them had lions. You remember Daniel in the lion's den? That's why the king transferred the lions. It was the lions that Daniel was familiar with. That's why they didn't eat him. So, because it was the ones that was on the thrones of Darius. And Darius told him, he says, the Lord who serves you will help you. And Darius did help him, although he was referring to the God that Daniel served. But Darius wanted to counteract those counselors that were jealous of Daniel. So he put in the lions that Daniel knew, and the lions knew him, and they did not eat him. So there's a big difference there. So, because Daniel was always before Darius, the king. So anyway, let's go on. I diverted there for a minute or two, because I was trying to tell you that they love to have living creatures on the throne in the Near East. Some even had eagles. They had birds, all that. They're on the throne. Most of them preferred lions. Okay, so let's talk about these living creatures. And the first living creature or animal, as Lanza has it, was like a lion. Notice what it says, was like a lion, because it wants to tell you this is an imagery. It wants you to get something more than just the idea of a lion. Okay, let's do all four of them, and then I'll go back on it. The first living creature was like a lion, and the second living creature was like a calf, and the third living creature had a face of a man. And this is why I don't like to say animal. That's why I like to use the word creature. Imagine an animal with the face of a man. Okay. All right. And this is, again, Near Eastern. And it's a little bit of a copy of Ezekiel as well. And the fourth living creature, is how I would translate it, living creature, was a flying eagle. Didn't I tell you about the eagles? And they like eagles and lions, and some of them even had tigers. It depends on where they were and what kind of a king they had or leader. They had this in all the rulers in the ancient world. Okay, so let's take a look. What does it mean? Lion represents strength. Represents strength. Notice there was four, because now I'm going to tell you something a little metaphysical here. The four represents the four powers here. What are they? The four powers are what? Fire, earth, water, and air. Fire, earth, water, and air. So these are this is used in all the ancient religions, those four powers. And this is why these four living creatures, this is why they're living creatures, because fire, you know what it does. All right. Why fire? So the lion metaphysically represents the first earthly power, which is fire. Fire, what does fire do? Fire refines and fire transforms. Fire refines and transforms. And what also does it do? Fire not only transforms, it also, because it'll turn things into ashes as well. So it is destructive. So it has those powers, and it represents the lion. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to use the signs of the zodiac, that's Leo. That's Leo. Powerful, dominion, authority. This is what it is. But what it's describing is the power of God. It's describing the power of God. That's the animals were supposed to represent that of the king, of the potentate. But here it's representing God. And the first thing, God is what? A consuming fire. He is fire, but it's to transform and refine us. So also, these living creatures are also in us, the fire, to renew us, to refine us, to refine the consciousness, to get it seeing what it needs to see, to live here on the earth. Yes, to live here. Okay. Then was a calf. and that represents earth. And I wrote down something here just to make sure that we get it. It represents, the calf represents the physical plane. The physical plane. And it represents our outer senses about nature. Our outer senses about nature. Because that is the endurance. You see, the calf represents endurance. Lion represents strength and dominion, but the calf represents endurance. And the physical power. It represents earth. Remember, fire, earth, nature. Nature. This is our natural consciousness, okay? Then we go to, and if you want to use the sign of the zodiac, you know, that's Taurus. Taurus, the bull. And now we go to the next stage, which is what? The face of a man. This represents water and Aquarius. Aquarius. And Aquarius here and the water. This represents, this is the symbology. This is the ancient Near East. And this is what you have to understand, the imagery that is used here. The face of a man means intellect, intelligence. So God is infinite intelligence. You get it? Remember, first, this is portraying God. God is behind all nature, which was the calf. God is behind also intelligence, but divine intelligence, divine intelligence. And the face of a man is the symbol for intelligence and for intellect. Got it? Now we go then to the last, the eagle. So what does the eagle do? Flies in the air. And remember what I told you? There's the four elements: fire, earth, water, and air. And that's why in your meditation, you take in breath, you relax everything in the earth, all your emotional state, all of that has to get relaxed. The water represents the emotional state. It represents also the psychic realm. The psychic realm. All of that is right there in that imagery. Let me go on to the next one. And so the air, eagle, represents spirit. Air represents spirit. So when you take in the air, you take in the spirit. You feel the spirit of God in you. When you're in this meditative state, you're in a new state. You're in a higher awareness. And you are in spirit. Remember, in spirit, that's air. And the eagle flying. There's no limitation in this. You can see beyond what the physical eyes see. You see with a spiritual insight. You fly in a different direction. Okay, so you're not confined to the earth. You are as an eagle flying, and that means the omnipresence. How does this represent? How does this particular living creature represent God? Omnipresence in the air, everywhere. In the air, everywhere. I'm really breaking down these symbols for you. This is the deepest I've ever gone for anyone whenever I taught the book of the Revelation. I'm doing it for you. Okay, so this is the air. Be blessed that you can breathe. Be thankful you can breathe. Be grateful. You breathe in, but realize you're breathing in spirit. The breath of God. It's the breath of God. We breathe because of the breath of God. Okay, which represents omnipresence. All right, let's go on. Verse 8. And the four animals had each of them 6 wings. They had 6 wings. This is a, do you remember the seraphim when Isaiah, and you had to be familiar with scripture, when Isaiah, I believe it's the 7th chapter or the 6th, I can't remember exactly right now. Anyway, Isaiah, when he first was called by God and he saw the throne of God. He saw the throne of God, and he saw the seraphim. That's Hebrew, seraphim. And they also had 6 wings. 2 of the wings, they covered their face. The rest of the other 2 wings, which makes 4, they covered their body. And the other 2 wings is so the seraphim could fly. They had 6 wings, 2, 2, and 2. Face, covered the face, covered the whole body and the feet, and to take flight, okay, to fly. So this is why they had 6 wings. It's a replication of the seraphim and the throne that Isaiah saw. Okay, so here it is now here. And then, but there's something different about these wings. We go to Ezekiel. This is where we're going to find what, and he says, these 6 wings were full of eyes within. The wings were made of eyes. Can you imagine that? Nothing but, can I imagine an artist trying to draw this? He'd have to draw it out like wings, but instead of wings, they're all eyes within our eyes. and they had no rest day or night. I'm talking about now these living creatures. They had no rest day or night. They had these 6 wings full of eyes. Why full of eyes? Again, remember, what do they represent? Omnipresence of God, but now these are eyes. So what do you think that represents? Omniscience, all seeing. That's why the wings were full of eyes. Why wings full of eyes? Because the wings take them into the universe. It's universal insight, all omniscient, all knowing. These are describing the characteristics of God and of a higher consciousness. This is why all of a sudden you know something that you didn't know before and you didn't get it from a book. It comes as a flash of lightning. It's from the higher sense of consciousness, of awareness. You get greater insight. Okay, I see my time is getting close for me to close it out and get to your questions. And he says, and they don't rest day or night. They're saying, Kadisha, 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 Maria Allah, Lord, holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. In other words, no time, no space, even though that's using that. Who was and is to come means always is. That's all it means. Always is. Always. And this is what pure universal consciousness is. Universal knowingness, universal awareness. It's totally what it is. It's a beautiful description. And this is a part of our higher consciousness. Because we are human, we have to function here. I needed to function here, but I also can function on another plane. And that other plane, which we call higher consciousness, was to help us in our daily life, in our work, and if only our governments, all governments, not just our government, all governments would realize their true spiritual nature. And that's what Jesus came to do, to awaken us to it. And this is again in symbolism and in imagery. Jesus just flat out said it. He didn't use imagery, he just said it. And that's why I like Jesus is much better than this. Okay, but I'm breaking it down for you because people want to know what this is all about. So I'm telling it to you. So because on the throne, they have people all around the throne. I'm talking about in the ancient Near East, praising the king, the king who has insight, the ruler who understands all things, the ruler who can take care of the people, the ruler, and they praising him, praising him, praising him, praising. So naturally, if earthly rulers get that, why shouldn't God? You see, that's why we say, but God doesn't need that. God doesn't need to be praised all the time. I'm thankful. I'm grateful. And the moment you're thankful and grateful, that's praising God. Every time you're thankful for anything and everything that you may have or have, and you are thankful and grateful, you're praising God. Because this grass, the trees, the air, the clouds, the rain, the sun, all of that is all a part of God's glory for us. So we are thankful. We are grateful. And he helps us in the time of suffering too. Then he goes on, let's continue. That's why they're just they never stop. It's holy, 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 means set apart, set apart, set apart is the Lord God Almighty, who was, who is, and who is to come. Beautiful imagery. And when these four living creatures give glory and honor and thanks to him who sits on the throne, who lives forever and ever, who lives for throughout the ages, is another way to translate it. Then when all these creatures, these living creatures are saying that, what happens? The 24 elders fall down before him who sits on the throne and worship him. They bend their knees, they're bowed, who lives forever and ever, and they take off their crowns. We're not worthy of these crowns. They belong to God. He takes off the crowns and they give them back to God. See, that's when you acknowledge your spiritual sense, but it's not ego-centered. What happens is you take off your crown and you give it back to God. You take off your crown of gold, which meant royalty and loyalty and higher consciousness. You sitting on the throne, he who overcomes will sit with me on my throne, like the 24 elders, see? And you take it off and you give it back to God. And you don't get ego-fied from it, okay? So, and saying, thou art worthy, O holy, O our holy Lord and God, to receive glory, honor, power, for thou hast created all things, and by thee and through thee they are, and by thy will they are and were created. Whew. Whew. Is that what's going on in your being? Is that what's going on in your soul? Take time out and find that the living creatures in your own heart. Find the power of true meditation, true prayer, true relationship with God. Our Father, but all this wonderful stuff here that's used in Revelation. How did Jesus say? When you pray, pray, Aun Washmeya. You heard it tonight. Our Father. Simple, like you're going to a parent. A father, someone you can have communion with, someone you can talk to. Man, this is the Almighty. This is, whoa, royalty, spiritual royalty. Again, Near Eastern imagery. Near Eastern imagery. Chapter 5. And I saw on the right of hand who sat on the throne a book, should say scroll, a scroll written within and on the back and sealed with 7 seals. Next week, we start with that. I trust you got more than just the words I'm saying, that you got the sense of what I was saying. Just using that imagery, because to pull you into your relationship with God, to pull you in with your relationship with the living Christ, with the exalted Christ, with the resurrected Mashiach, that is flowing through you now, in your body, in your cells, in your being, in the core of your being, in your body, wherever it is right now. It's flowing into you right now. If you really caught what I was doing tonight, if you really, really sense what I was doing tonight. So with the imagery, and there's some forms of imagery where some forms of meditation where they use imagery. I would rather see the rising of the sun and all of that and the brightness of the sun. That's why the first image was given to us in the very first chapter of the living Christ. That is the Christ consciousness. So we have begun the revelation, but I want it to really be within your own heart and soul. So let me go to the chat room here now and get to the questions. What is the meaning of Kadosh, 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 Adonai, Sabajoth, Ein Sof? This is what you're giving me here is it's coming from the book of the Revelation. The word Kadosh, Kadosh is, but it's not spelled right. It's Kaddish. One is Aramaic, and this is a little bit on the Hebrew, but still not quite right. The Hebrew means holy, holy, Lord of the Sabbath, Ein Sof. Ein Sof of the two letters in the Kabbalah and in the alphabet. And it's really, we say Ein Sof. That's because of the Hebrew, but it's it's in the throat here. I have learned that with this phrase, our soul entered into spirit, and you can feel how you reach the higher consciousness. You're really not reaching it. You're unveiling it. It gets unveiled. In other words, you're awakening to it. It's already there. You really don't go up. We don't go up at all. It's right there in us all the time. These are just figures of speech. Figures, even when I use the term higher consciousness, I do it to make a contrast, but you really don't. What it is it's already there. It just gets unveiled. Remember, this is the revelation, to unveil, to uncover something that's already there. And this is from the Kabbalah, to make you receptive. You can say it in English. You don't have to use Kadosh, 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 Adonai. You can say Kaddish, Kaddish if you want. I don't. I use English. But I don't even use that. I use the word Awun. Awun, the Washmeya, our Father who is everywhere. Our beloved who is everywhere. I like that, because when you say set apart, literally what you're saying is set to one side, set to one side, set to one side. 3 times you say it. Holy, holy, holy. That's why the next thing in the Lord's Prayer, the phrase is sanctified is your name, because it's Nif Kadesh Shmach. Listen to it. Kaddish. You hear it? Kaddish? Kaddish, Kadosh. That's one is Hebrew, one is Aramaic. Same word. It's the same word. So Kadosh is holy. It didn't go off, did it? We're still recording, aren't we? Hanny?
We are. Yeah, we are. It shows recording.
Yeah, okay. So holy, holy, holy means you're setting everything apart. It's not the words. The words are not doing it. It's your own being that's doing it. It's not the words. Understand what the words are saying. You're setting yourself apart, where you can be receptive. That's what holy, holy, holy means, okay? I want you to go deeper into the Kabbalah. This is you're not climbing up to go higher. You're just setting yourself apart to enter into this, to participate. That's even better than the word enter, to participate. You are participating in it, okay? All right. And you can feel you reach higher consciousness. Yeah, no, it's higher consciousness unveiled in me. Okay, let's go to the next one. Is there another question? I'm not getting another question. Let me go up and see if there's some above it. Ah, yeah, there is. Was meditation practiced by many in the Old Testament period? Yes, your prophets. Your prophets, and that's what, for instance, they had a school of prophets, and that was done by oh goodness, his name is slipping me right now. The prophet in Samuel, the prophet Samuel. He started a school, and part of it was music. He used music. He used the guitarra. In Aramaic, harp. How do you say harp in Aramaic? Is guitarra. That's how you say it. Guitar, because of the way the strings are in the guitar. That's what they call the harp. That's how you say it in Aramaic, guitarra. And they used that. They used drums, and they used silence, complete silence. They practiced meditation. Absolutely, they did. And it's in the school. It's called the School of the Prophets. You have to read 1st and 2nd Samuel. And this is how Samuel trained his younger prophets, and also how Elijah trained Elisha, taught Elisha. They practiced meditation. Meditation is very important. All right. I think that answers that question. What countries are considered Middle East and are near? I'm a bit confused. Okay. I was afraid that question was going to come up because I use the term Near East all the time. Technically speaking, what we call the Middle East is the Near East. We here in America changed it. We called it the Middle East, and all the newspaper people and of course naturally would do it. But when I was in Germany, if I used the term Middle East, they said, "What are you talking about, Middle East?" And any educated person uses the term Near East. So when don't confuse Middle East, Near East. The Middle East is the Near East, and that is Israel and all of the Near East. And then there's the Far East. There's Near East and Far East. Far East is more of your Asian, more as you go more towards Asiatic people, and you go more in that direction towards the east. The farther east you go, into Japan, China, all of that, that would be Far East. And we in America made up the idea of the Middle East, and that's why it's popular now. It's used in books. Everyone's using it here in America. But when I was in Germany, if I used Middle East, they would laugh at me. I knew, but I always learned it Near East. When I took ancient history, I learned it as Near East, and that would be Iraq, Iran, Israel, ancient Canaan. That would all be the Near East, what we're calling the Middle East today. And the Arab world, we call it all the Middle East, but it's really the Near East. That is the real technical name for it. And the reason for the confusion is because we here in America changed it. We changed it. To us, it's more like Middle East. Whatever happened to the Near East? Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, let's go on. What does, then it's blank. Thank you for that explanation. I get it. Okay. Let's see. Next one. Then comes the one about the Kadosh, Kadosh, Adonai, Sebojof, Sof, Ein Sof. It's really, people don't pronounce it right. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Do you have any questions there, Hani?
I received a couple that you had covered in the talk, so I went ahead and answered them directly. So we don't really.
Oh, you already answered them.
Else. Yeah, I did them online because you had mentioned them during the talk.
Okay. All right. Well, then that takes care of it for tonight, right?
Right on time.
All right. Okay, everyone. We again, I got to say thank you for your offerings that you are sending in to keep this going, and it keeps the foundation going. I don't touch any of it. It goes into the foundation, and it helps support this program. It helps support what's going on in the foundation when we publish books. I don't even collect a full royalty on my books and everything because I let it go back. And I've always done that, let it go right back into the foundation. So I appreciate it when you send it in to us. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. And I love you, appreciate all of you. And again, until next week, blessings, love, stay well, sleep well. Bless you. Bye-bye.